everybody, very quick video about being a permanent complainer and what you can do about it, because I think most of us have probably been in this situation at some point where or maybe you've got a friend, we've all had a friend who constantly complains about everything, but they never seem to want to do anything about it. And we all have to offload. We all have days, we all have situations that frustrate us. With me it's learning software, and it's all this new stuff that I've never had to deal with before, like the relationship between having a laptop, having a tablet, being able to do certain things on the laptop but not on the tablet, and the other way around, and then how you store your videos and how you transport things across or export or whatever, and how you edit videos, and all these things that can be very frustrating to learn, and it's all a process. So I'm not talking about a situation where you're learning and you're trying to figure things out and you're on a process of trying to make things better for yourself. I'm talking about when we get into situations where we maybe have an area of our life where we are just constantly complaining about how things are happening to us and how we don't have any control, and just complaining about the way it is, and kind of going in that permanent loop, just going around in circles of complaining and blaming. And I think Paul McGee talked about this in his book, his loud noise, in his sumo book, Sumo, Shut Up, Move On, which isn't as harsh as it sounds. It was an amazing book, and it introduced me to the concept of wallow time. Like, we all need wallow time, like a hippo. When things actually go catastrophically wrong, you need time to really, really feel crap about it and allow yourself to wallow and then come through the other end. But anyway, the whole concept of blaming and complaining, it just puts you in a cycle. So you're complaining, let's say you're not happy with your job. Okay, you hate your boss and you hate the job and you're not being paid what you want to be paid. And so you go around to everybody you know and you complain about how much you hate your job, and you complain about your boss, and you complain about the pay. And then let's say somebody says to you, well, why don't you get a better job? Now, if you were really, really, really unhappy and you really wanted to be out of the situation you were in, what would you be doing? You'd be looking at other jobs. You'd be doing something about it. You'd be negotiating a pay rise. You'd be talking to your boss. You'd be, job hunting, or looking at improving your skills and maybe going on courses so that you could do something else in your career. But what it seems that a lot of people have is this cycle of blaming and complaining, and then as soon as somebody puts a solution in front of your face, let's assume it's a friend. Okay, let's assume it's a friend of ours. So we have a friend who constantly complains about her job, and she's been in the same job 8 years. And we listen and we listen, and we're very patient and we're a good friend. But then every time we say, well, oh, I've seen another job in town that might be perfect for you, they kind of go, and then they go back to complaining about their job. And after a few months of this, or years of this, you start to think, well, if you're really, really unhappy in that situation, why aren't you doing something to try to get out of that situation? If it really makes you that miserable, why aren't you taking a step, a tiny, tiny step to get out of that situation? And what you can start to think is, if they're really not taking any steps and they're not listening to any advice and they're ignoring any opportunities out there that could get them out of the situation they're in, then you kind of have no choice but to start thinking, well, a part of them wants to be stuck in that situation. There must be a part of them that loves being unhappy, that just wants to have something to complain about. And I'm sorry if this sounds a bit harsh. And like I said before, I'm not talking about when you're in you know, maybe sometimes we get into long-term situations that are very hard to fix and they're hard to get out of. So for the long term, for the short term, we're kind of stuck, but there's still steps we can take to just maneuver, because actually it never takes a lot. You know, a few little steps, you know, you kind of change. So let's say you're on this trajectory, and then you take another little step and another little step and another, and it changes the whole curve. You know, it changes the destination that you're going to end up at, because you've taken some little steps, you've taken a course, you've done some training, you've gone for an interview, you've joined a job club. You know, no matter what it is, those little steps you take will change your path. Of course they will. Whereas if you just carry on doggedly and you do nothing to change where you are, the chances are you're going to stay on the same path unless something huge happens that kicks you off that path, like you lose your job or you get an illness, you know. And why should we let it get to that point where something huge has to happen before we decide, do you know what, 10 years is enough in this horrible job, or 10 years is enough in this horrible relationship, I'm going to do something to get out of it. So I just wanted to discuss that idea about, if you find yourself being a permanent complainer, or you have a friend or a family member. I mean, I've been that person. I think it's only been recently that I've tried to change myself and improve myself and go out there and read lots of books and read articles and learn about the things I can influence, and learn about developing confidence so that you can take steps, so that you always feel as if you have options in your life. Because I think what can happen is we maybe just get stuck in a cycle of complaining and blaming because we don't actually feel we can change where we are, or we don't feel we're clever enough, or we don't think we're worthwhile enough, or we're not talented enough. And this is the hand that we've been dealt, so we've got to take it. And what I'm trying to show is that you can always take some little steps. So if you are one of these people and you're suddenly thinking, oh, that's me, I've actually been unhappy for a very long time, but I like to go around telling everyone that I'm unhappy, but actually when they offer me advice and solutions, I'm not really interested in taking that advice. I just want to be able to complain. If you're aware of that, you've got to be aware that if you don't do something about that, you're probably going to drive people away, or people are going to get to a point where they're fed up with the complaining. They start distancing themselves. They start asking, why are you not taking any advice? If you're really that unhappy, why don't you do something about it? The other thing is, you can just surround yourself with a load of other complainers and you can all complain together. And that was a situation I've been in, where you may be all stuck in the same job and you get into this little culture, this little club of, let's all sit around complaining about the boss, but nobody's really taking steps to get out, and that can be very destructive. I think if you're surrounded by people who are complainers and you're all complaining together, then you're less inclined to try and better yourself and break away, because we tend to emulate the people that we're closest to. We tend to try and sort of keep on the same level, and it's important to try and be around people or be influenced by people who are doing better than us, or people who are successful and the people we want to aspire to be like. Because when you're all kind of stuck on the bottom, no one's got any real motivation to move up, and you're all just complaining about it. Generally you can get dragged down by people who don't want to look at their own paths in life, and they don't really want you to change what you're doing. So I hope that's given some ideas. I just wanted to, give an honest video and have an honest discussion about this kind of thing, because if you are this kind of person, you can change it, you can take steps, you can become a solution finder. So if you're aware that you're complaining and you're whinging and you actually really don't want to be that person anymore, you can make a decision to say, okay, everyone needs a run, everyone needs to get things off their chest. We all need to relieve stress. We all have awful things happen. We all have difficult decisions to make sometimes. But as long as you are kind of ending up, you know, in your head you have an awareness that, okay, I'm going to try and find solutions through this and solutions away from this situation. I'm not going to complain forever. I'm not going to complain for a year, for 5 years, for 10 years. I'm actually going to try to do something today or this week and take a step towards what I do want, rather than just settling for a situation that doesn't make me happy. So hope this has helped you guys. Hope you've enjoyed. Please like, please subscribe, share with your friends, and I will see you soon in the next video. Cheers, everybody.